Welcome to Activista Rise Up. Hello, everyone. How is everybody doing? Today, we are having, it's one a special day because this conversation that we're going to have today is about what Activista Rise Up is all about elevating leaders locally and nationally who are actually driving actions, activism, demanding change. We are in an unprecedented moment of worker organizing. Workers at Starbucks, at Amazon, at Google are organizing, coming together and saying enough is enough. We want to work for wages that allow us to build our future, to build an American dream, and to actually allow us a voice at work. Today, we will discuss union organizing and why young workers at Starbucks, but in many other companies, are actually demanding that corporate America does what it's supposed to do, which is to create jobs that allow working class, middle class families in the United States to actually have a chance of building a future and build a future for their children. One of the biggest organizing campaigns that is happening right now and actually has a spark an activity of organizing in other companies is the David versus Goliath story of young workers at Starbucks. Starbucks is a very well-known retail company that we all use. We all want to go have our coffee from a barista at a local Starbucks. And we don't mind paying a lot of money for a cup of coffee, yet we never got to ask. And we never, before this organizing happened, we're asking, where is this money going? How is that worker making a living? Who are they? What are they? What are their aspirations? Are they just students? Taking a couple of hours, or they actually making a living working at Starbucks? Well, COVID-19 forced us to ask those questions, and the workers that were working at Starbucks forced us also to understand what are the dynamics of their working experience. So today, in order to understand what's happening in American workplaces and what's happening at Starbucks, today we have a very special guest, Niah Baker. He is a chief supervisor and one of the organizers at Starbucks from Montclair Church Street, right here in Montclair, New Jersey. Welcome, Niah, to our Activista Rise Up podcast and webcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I opened up a little bit about how important the Starbucks campaign is because it basically brings together young people like you who basically said enough is enough. We want to have a good job. So tell me a little bit about yourself and why you decided to organize a union right here in Montclair, New Jersey.
Yeah, sure. So I am a shift supervisor and barista at Starbucks. I got hired at least in 2021. So during COVID, I was looking for a progressive place to work. And I was like, Starbucks is super progressive. I would definitely want to work there. And things like social justice things, environmental things. So it all sounded like really good. Like that seems like the kind of place that I want to work for. And so not soon after I got hired, my store was closed for like months, maybe like 4 to 6. And during that time, Buffalo, the first Starbucks store, had filed and won their union. So by the time that we opened up, we started having like those sort of conversations, and everybody's like, did you hear about Buffalo? Did you hear about Buffalo? Like, we should have a union. I don't want to organize anything, but we should definitely have a union. I would sign a card. So that's kind of how it happened. Like, we finally came together, like our whole team, after being apart for so long, and started to have like those conversations organically after hearing what happened at other stores across the country.
One thing that you said that stood out to me just now is how you wanted to work for Starbucks because they were selling themselves as a progressive company, as an environmentally responsible company, as a company that offer health insurance or offer all kinds of benefits. But that's not what you found when you got there, was it?
No. So you do have to work at least 20 hours a week to get those benefits. Not, and you don't always get scheduled those 20 hours a week, right? And in order to have like the availability to get those hours, like you'd have to, let's say if I want to work 30 hours a week, I would have to like have an available 40 hours, right? But I still might only get
Yeah.
scheduled 10 hours. So I don't even get the healthcare benefits. And like there's options, but none of the options, like it's still a lot to come out of a paycheck at the end of the day when you're like making $15 an hour as a barista starting off. And then other things like they tout about their great, like you get free college, but it's online classes and they're limited on what the classes are. Plus, again, you have to meet those 20-hour requirements that can be
Mhm.
very difficult. Another thing is like they talk about like having so many different like communities and stuff that like promote like things like social justice for like LGBTQIA people, like Black and Latino like baristas as well. But then a lot of the times you'll find out that like the policies to get like someone kicked out, like a customer kicked out who's maybe discriminatory against a barista of minority status is
Yeah.
really challenging and way more jumping through hoops than it should be.
Yeah, so they had this exceptional benefits and programs on paper, but
Hmm.
it's very difficult for workers to qualify for even those benefits. And then, as I hear you, it seems to me that all those policies that are meant to be inclusive, are not. You don't feel that they were inclusive in having those conversations with all of you in how they were enacting those policies. Is that right?
Yeah, they a lot of the policies like it's definitely more to protect the company from, I guess, any sort of liability rather than it is to protect like the safety and the mental like health of the baristas that are working there.
Yeah. So you talked about how you were inspired by the baristas in Buffalo to actually organize a union. What are the basic demands, what that they made and that you're making to improve your workplace so far?
So definitely like better staffing levels on the floor, like, and that also goes like more people like actually working during a shift, right? That also goes into like hours, like getting more hours for people, better pay. It's the starting rate I think is like 15.75, but if you're living in Essex County, a one-bedroom apartment, like if you're in the low 40% is still like $1,300. Um, so like a lot of that, we were looking to also things like health and safety, things like, it's there's drinks all over the place. You're spilling drinks, like you're gonna slip.
Yeah.
You have to have non-slip shoes. Why do I have to pay for the non-slip shoes? Why not the company that I'm working for and making profit for it so I can continue my work there?
And because
So
that protects, that's a health and safety issue if you need that equipment. And
yeah.
so if you don't have that, I mean that's also dangerous for the consumer. So why should consumers care about you being safe at work?
Because if I'm safe at work, I can focus more on making your drink correctly. Like I can focus more on connecting with you as a customer because I'm not, trying to like dodge puddles or try to make sure that like equipment is like functioning properly. So when I have a healthy, dignified, safe working environment, I can then give better service to my customers.
Exactly. I mean, it's a matter of also if you are not getting, if you are understaffed and there's not enough people in the store, your quick coffee is not gonna be quick because you have to wait for enough people to be able to service you. Um, of your team members, because one of the things that that those who oppose and even Starbucks says is that most of the folks they wanted the flexibility of just working some hours, or they know this is not a career, this is just something they want to do for some periods of time. What do you say to those, to that argument from the company, and for maybe consumers who say, well, why do you work here, why don't you go somewhere else?
I mean, that's the thing. There's definitely people, like, we do have students, but we can't all be students. Like, it's gonna be running from, like, 8 a.m. until 3 or whatever time, like, kids are at school. Plus, if somebody is, like, we also have quite a few college age students, but still, like, they also are trying to look for supplemental income. And I think that, like, even for somebody who is a college age student, like, 20 hours is should be doable. It shouldn't be that much of a struggle just to get those 20 hours.
And they should pay you a good wage for those 20 hours.
Of
Yeah.
course, because it's hard work.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I didn't think that going in, but it's a lot more difficult than I realized, especially considering, like, what my last job was.
Well, that goes to show you that, I mean, I always argue that every work needs a level of skill, that the whole issue of unskilled labor is just something corporate America uses to devalue your labor. Because even, barista, that is the name they gave you because it's a skill to make coffee, to serve it in the right way. So, what has been the biggest challenge that you have faced, as a worker trying to get this union keep this union alive in Montclair, but part in the movement and trying to respond to the attacks of Starbucks against the union leaders.
Yeah, so, every so often, I'll get, like, somebody's given my number to a person who's given my number to a person, and then I'll get, like, a random text like, "Hey, I heard about, like, unions, that you're in a union and stuff," and, like, we'll start having conversations, and then it'll go, like, cold. So I definitely think that, like, I've heard stories of, like, people who were, like, ready to file and then immediately, like, the day before, like, handing their cards back, um, like, people will start asking for them back just because of how bad the union busting is and the sort of narrative that Starbucks has power to kind of control, especially if you're outside of a union store or if you're not being able to constantly be in contact with unionized partners, or baristas. That's probably the most difficult thing is just fighting against this narrative that this, like, multi-billion-dollar company has.
And how do you
With
fight back? Yeah, you talk about you staying connected with other baristas. How do you do that?
Yeah, so definitely, like, having those conversations, trying not to be overbearing and scary, because that's something that Starbucks likes to say is that, like, the union is, like, bullying people into unionizing, which is
Um,
very funny and weird.
who's
Um, but
bullying, right?
yeah.
Who's the one with the big hammer?
Yeah,
It's
so it's just, like, keeping open, like, an open table, like an open seat, like an open chair, being welcoming to people who are just curious.
yeah.
Um, I am excited because I think that we are going to start getting some more momentum again in Jersey soon. And I think it has to do with just being, like, welcoming and listening and trying to, like, push back against the narrative that Starbucks has already put forward and be like, oh, have you heard this? Or what are things that you've heard? And then tell them the truth. I think
Exactly.
as more people find out the truth, they are coming more and more onto our side.
Awesome. I mean, that says a lot about how unions are about building a community of workers, and supporting each other through the process. That's how you build community. So I'm glad to hear that that's what you are doing. So where is the campaign at this moment in time in New Jersey, but nationally? Like, what are you guys doing, and what is your hope to move the campaign forward?
So we've been making a lot of noise. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Howard Schultz. He was pretty recently, maybe a
Mhm.
month ago, had to testify in front of the Senate.
Yes.
So definitely, like, being loud and being seen is definitely helping not only just, like, the solidarity, like, within each shop that's going on these, like, strikes and things, but also getting eyes, like eyes that are important and can also change, you know, change the laws, change, how, like, the different procedures, change, like, where funding is going, in order to help, like, actually have unions be able to get their company to sit down and bargain with them.
Exactly. Did you get to go to Washington, D.C.?
I did. I got to see the back of my CEO's head. It was really fun.
Awesome. Awesome. I mean, I must have been an empowering moment because he had refused to go testify and you guys were able to get him there. So.
Yeah, it was definitely empowering, but maybe like a little interesting because it definitely was like, wow, this is a real person who can make these sort of decisions, which
Yes.
was a really tough thing, a little sobering, but it definitely makes me like, we can't let this happen with the next CEO who's coming in. We got to fight back more.
We gotta fight back. So what gives you hope that you can get the next CEO to pay attention in a way that this CEO has chosen to ignore and protect the brand without realizing that protecting the brand means that he has to change, he has to actually address the labor concerns that he has in the company. So what gives you hope that you can make like that we can actually get Starbucks organized?
I think that like I've already like it's already started coming into fruition. Like we're already making those sort of wins. Again with like the Senate hearing, I also think about like how the region that I think it's region 3 of the NLRB, there was a Starbucks was forced to like reopen a closed down store that was unionized. We've been seeing people who have been reinstated time and time and time again. Like off the top of my head, Memphis 7. I know that Katie McCoy from Washington. Um, like you're seeing partners all across like being forced, and it's eventually like it's going to be a point where they're going to have to be forced to bargain with us regardless, like it's the law. So either way, like it stinks that they've been delaying it so long, but they can only delay it for so long.
Exactly. And it's the law. It's an exciting time because the NLRB is actually taking action because you guys are organizing, are demanding action. So it doesn't happen with one doesn't happen without the other. So I want to commend you for the courage that all of you have shown to actually stand up to a big corporation. I want to remind my listeners of something that you said, that it was sobering to actually see a person that is in charge and can make choices, right? Like to see George Schultz that he's a man. Like it's not those corporations. Sometimes we feel like they're so big and there's nobody we can talk to, but there's actually somebody who actually makes these choices, and that
Hmm.
you have able to put a face on him and being able to get Congress to point to the ways in which they can address this problem. I think is sobering. So I congratulate you for elevating the consciousness of the American consumer, because it's not just why do we care that you have working conditions, but why should we care about how much we're paying for a cup of coffee and where is that money going, right? It should be
Hmm.
going to your wages, not to just to the profits of the shareholders of the company. So how can people help you win?
We're fighting like a multi-billion-dollar company, so definitely money helps. When we do these things that definitely put Starbucks Workers United on the map, like these national strikes, we do like lose out on some of the money that we have. We do have some funding, but I know like for my store locally, we have a strike fund. It's a GoFundMe that we use to help supplement like missing money that you would lose out for like the 30% of the
Gotcha.
wages that Workers United doesn't cover, plus tips that we're going to end up missing out because we don't have those hours as well. Um, and then other than that, there's also a National Solidarity Fund by Coworker. That fund helps leaders in like organizing, like helps provide relief to them during all their organizing.
Great. So we are going to put on our website and on this at the end of the show the links to where to make donations to the local strike fund right here in Montclair, New Jersey, but also to the national fund. Let's remember, everybody, when workers go on strike, the union supports them with with some minimal support. But like Niah said, they do lose their wages because they're per hour wage employees. So anything that you can help support them to stay on strike and to keep pushing forward, please do so. And join. When there's a strike, join the picket line. Right? How does that help you when you see consumers and just regular people joining your picket line?
It's amazing. I mean, specifically for the picket lines that we've organized here in Montclair, like the community support has been overwhelming from both other unions, but also like regular customers. We've had a customer who like made us extra like buttons and stuff to like hand out to people. And I was like, that's so amazing. Like our people see us work and we've created these relationships and we are actually part of the community and it's the community giving back. So definitely. I know that if you are ever interested in a picket line, you definitely should follow maybe like either my Twitter, like for my store, or the Twitter nationally, because usually they'll drop lines that you can go to, and there's usually a couple in Jersey.
Great. All the Twitter handles and the social media from Niah Baker will be connected here and will be sent to all our listeners. So please join him, support him, and just let's support the Starbucks Workers Organizing Campaign nationally. Starbucks is just one corporation. They have a lot of influence in setting up the tone for respect of workers' rights. And remember, all these workers do need a voice at work, and they want just the basic rights to be respected, and for wages and health and safety on the job that affords them dignity. So please take action, support Starbucks Worker Organizing, and support Niah Baker right here in Montclair, New Jersey. Thank you, Niah, for all you do and for keep inspiring us to actually have a rebirth of the labor movement here in the United States. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for having me.
Worker organizing is on the rise because the levels of income inequality in the United States are growing, and the only way we're going to reverse it is by supporting workers' rights to have a union. Niah Baker is one of the courageous young workers who are changing the dynamics of this debate. Starbucks workers, Google workers, Amazon workers, all of them are demanding our support for the right to have a union and improve all our economic conditions here in the United States. Take action, join the picket line, and be an activist for workers' rights. Activista Rise Up.